Thank you very much. It's every Member of Parliament's nightmare to be called next after Tony Benn. Can I say that this is a groundbreaking and a very important event, and it's got my full support, and it's got the full support of the Liberal Democrats as well. And I'm speaking tonight as the Liberal Democrat MP who has the responsibility in Parliament of setting out my party's views on what is now called social cohesion, that whole range of complex ideas, of policies and attitudes that can help Britain to be an open, a fair and a diverse society at peace with itself, and where we can learn from each other and appreciate the contributions that we all make. And Sir Min Campbell, my party leader, has particularly asked me to bring to you his support for this initiative, which we believe is very exciting. I want to tell you not only why the Liberal Democrats support this event and what we hope can grow out of it, but also to invite you to see the present crisis of confidence in Britain's capacity to build a tolerant society as one of many similar crises over the last 500 years. Tony just said that we might sow the seeds of hatred for 1,000 years. Well, I would like to think that over the last 500 years, we have in fact overcome on many different occasions quite similar circumstances. And each time that we did, it strengthened Britain, and it helped to bind in new communities, new ideas, new religions into our society. We did it then, and we can do it again. And I want, in a moment, to give you a short history lesson, if I may, to make my point. But I couldn't really go any further without saying very clearly indeed that I disagree with Jack Straw. I did want to tell Jack that myself, and I thought I'd phone him up and give him the word. But then I realized he'd be very uncomfortable because he wouldn't be able to see my face. It makes you wonder how he managed as a foreign secretary if he had to go and meet everybody he spoke to when he was doing the job. Sending him an email doesn't work. Same problem, of course. He can't see your face. Now, I've got a suggestion for the clothed fascists who seem to be getting abroad in our society at the moment. And you needn't think it's only Muslims who are getting it. There's a few people who've been asked to take their crosses off as well. If you want to stop crime and terrorism by banning an item of clothing, it's not veils you need to ban. If you give it a moment's thought, you'll realize what it is. It's gloves. Think about it. That's where you get the fingerprints from and the DNA. So I think perhaps we should have stop and search for everybody wearing gloves. Do you think that makes a sensible policy? That is the bizarre line of thinking which the present government seems to be bringing to bear on this. And we need to recognize that one of the lessons we've learnt in the last 500 years, one of the lessons is not to demonize whole communities because of actions by a very small minority. And in Britain, we have learnt better, not by instinct, not because somehow in Britain we've come to a magic answer out of the thin air, but because we've learned the lessons the hard way by doing it wrong time after time over the last 500 years. We had learnt 25 years ago. So when the IRA bombing campaign was blowing up a member of Parliament in the building just over there, or blowing up soldiers in the park just behind us, or coming to Manchester near my constituency in the northwest and bombing and killing civilians, the very last thing that anybody thought was a sensible response to that was to tell Catholics that they couldn't wear crosses or they couldn't wear their habits if they were nuns. We didn't demonize Catholics because of IRA terrorism. And what kind of a response can it be to try and demonize Muslims because of terrorism now? We didn't do it then because it wouldn't have been fair and it wouldn't have been just. But the clinching argument, surely, is it wouldn't have been sensible because it would have made things worse. And I want to tell you that we need to look a little bit deeper. The illegal invasion of Iraq, which the Liberal Democrats opposed from the very beginning, has had one very small benefit. It's taught the British something they didn't know before about Muslims, and that is that there are different strands of Muslim thought and belief, the Shia and the Sunni, for instance. And those different strands don't always live in peace with each other or agree with each other. Now, those of you here who are Muslims might be surprised, or perhaps not, to know that the same is true in the Jewish faith. And it's true in the Christian faith. We all have subdivisions and sects, and with that we have conflicts as well. And the reason we have a tolerant society in this country now is that for 500 years those different strands of Christian belief in Britain have jostled and sometimes fought each other. Catholics against Protestants, nonconformists and Anglicans, there's a very long list. It hasn't been easy to get to where we are today with mutual respect and understanding, but with a healthy commitment of each of us to our own point of view. Now, I'm a Christian as well as being a Liberal Democrat, and actually I belong to a small fraction of the Christian faith. I'm a Baptist. There's only about 1/10 the number of Baptists in this country as there are of Muslims, which is a sobering thought. But I'm proud of being a Baptist, not least because 450 years ago, my Baptist forefathers were the first in Britain, indeed the first in Western Europe, to call for religious tolerance for all and an end to all religious discrimination, even those that they were opposed to. And it took another 400 years before we got to take that for granted in this country. We now have, mostly, a healthy, open, plural society based on fair play and the mutual respect for different beliefs that we see as the hallmark of Britishness. And my plea is that we don't let Jack Straw or the tabloid newspapers, we don't let the BNP on the one side or the jihadists on the other undo that hard-won victory. And if I wanted to look at one newspaper headline that I found most shocking over the last 2 months, it was a Daily Express one that said 98% back ban on veil. Shame on the paper for printing such a dodgy statistic. But it's also worth thinking that a month before that, 98% of people wouldn't have understood the question. And the reason it got the prominence it did was precisely because the government, precisely because Jack Straw did exactly the wrong thing in response to dealing with the situation we face in this country. And so let us work hard to stop the slide into Islamophobia in this country. And let's have no slide into anti-Semitism or anti-religion either. And I look forward, and the Liberal Democrats look forward, to working with all of you to build the next stage of a peaceful, a tolerant and a free Britain, where strongly held beliefs can coexist and contribute to a richer society. There's much hard work to do, but Britain has done it before, and now we must do it again. Thank you.